everybody, and welcome back to the Festival of the Unexplained. I do apologize about my emotional outburst on the last live stream. It was just a little bit of an emotional time. This weekend's been super busy. We've had such an amazing day, and it's not over. And this is probably one of my highlights of this weekend. Now, I've read books with regards to this place, and the gentleman that owns this place has now quickly become quite a good person towards us, and he's also a good friend now. And I'm pleased to say that Josh is going to be with me, and he is at the Malvern Manor in Iowa. So hi, Josh.
Hey guys.
Hi. And you've got a team of guys who are staying overnight with you tonight, haven't you?
Look at these brave souls. They're ready
I wouldn't
to roll.
call them souls, I call them victims.
Victims, yes, maybe, potentially. I don't know yet.
Oh, well, I hope they have a fantastic time. But you're going to do a tour of the manor, aren't you, for us?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then I
So
can
I'll
answer questions or anything like that.
Yeah, I'll put you on the screen and you can go ahead and do the tour, and then we'll come back and we can do a conversation.
That sounds great. All right. All right, guys. So are we ready for all this fun stuff? All right. So guys, where we're standing right now, this room, this is just what we call the lobby area. So we know when this building was originally constructed, it was the mid-1800s. Now by the late 1800s, this building was in full swing as a hotel. Now primarily it was servicing the railroad, which was just a couple hundred yards out the front door. So people coming and going all the time. Now this room also kind of doubled as a gentleman's parlor, where the guys would sit around and they would sip their whiskey and they would smoke their stogies and all of that fun stuff. Now, one of the original owners of the building was this gentleman right here. And that's who we affectionately refer to as the captain. Captain Cullers was his name. He was one of the first people to really come to the area, settle, build a family, a life, all of that fun stuff. Very strong ties to this building. Now, a lot of people also claim to run into this gentleman up on the second floor, which I'll show you where all of that fun stuff happens as well. Now, this building ran as a hotel all the way up until the 1950s, so it had a pretty good run there, right? At that time, it kind of takes an odd turn. It becomes what we would consider to be more of like a nursing home type of setting. Now, sadly, the nursing home doesn't last very long. In the 1970s, the state of Iowa came in and shut them down because the hallways aren't wide enough to support transporting patients properly, right? So this is where history becomes the most fascinating for geeks and nerds like me, and that is where it becomes the group home. Now, the group home is servicing any type of mental disorder you could possibly imagine. What they deemed a mental disorder back then is quite different than what we do now. Everything from people with Down syndrome to people with drug and alcohol abuse, but very common type ailments by today's standards. Then, of course, you have patients on the opposite side of the coin, right? People with DID, or what we used to refer to as multiple personalities. Schizophrenics, even murderers are housed here. Like, this is a very eclectic group of people kind of coexisting in the same space. And it ran that way all the way up until 2005, when it was eventually then shut down. So really, it wasn't that long ago, and this building was still in full swing, guys. Now, I will say also, everything that you're about to see in this building is exactly the way it was when I first walked into this place, okay? I haven't touched anything. Now, with that being said, don't feel like you're walking around a museum, okay? So please be my guest and sit in the wheelchairs if you prefer. You may lay down in the beds if you prefer. You can try on the clothes in the dresser drawers upstairs if you would like, okay? Whatever you think is going to elicit a response, we absolutely want you to have that experience for sure, all right? So are you guys ready to roll?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Are you guys ready to roll? Let's go. Now, all right. We're going to cruise down this long, dark hallway here, guys.
Oh, look at this. Look at that stair line now.
All right, guys. So here we go. Cruising down the hallway. Okay, guys. So to move the wheelchair the way, the walls are falling apart. Have an old bed right here. It's quite small. The room itself is quite small. But guys, this is what we call Gracie's room. Now, Gracie was one of these exotic type of patients, right? So she was multiple personality, but also schizophrenic on top of all of that, a very chaotic type of mind state. Many times they would hear male voices coming from Gracie's room, and obviously having a male in a female's room is a big time no-no. So they would have to come. Upon opening the door, they would also then notice that it was just her making these noises. She was able to shift and manipulate her voice to sound male, which medically speaking is fascinating. And one evening in particular we know of, there were 3 nurses that came and sat with Gracie for just an hour. And during this hour, documented 13 separate distinguishable personalities, which again is almost medically unheard of. Like the wheelhouse is about 2 to 5, right? But again, guys, everything in this room is how we found it. Now, I will say this creepy doll in the wheelchair here has been added. There's also some flowers over here on the chair. Those were added just a couple days ago, but they're pretty, so I left them here. But that does include even her glasses, which still sit just right here on this little shelf, that were certainly original to this room. Everything else on the shelf, I will say, has been added. People bring gifts and toys and things of that nature, maybe something for her to move or manipulate in some way. But those glasses were certainly original. Now, I will also say this. I do notice that you're the only gentleman tonight, right? Okay, so Gracie does tend to gravitate more towards male investigators for whatever reason that may be. So this may be a hot spot for you later on, especially if you are sitting in her wheelchair or if you are lying down on her bed. You can have fun with that. So now, guys, we're gonna cruise down to this is my least favorite section of the whole place down here. I'm going to turn on a light so we might be able to see a little bit better. Hey.
The wallpaper, isn't it?
Yeah, the wallpaper it's kind of like a textured wallpaper, honestly. It's weird. So guys, this is the newest section of the whole building. They added this on in 1956 to kind of accommodate that nursing home setting. So back here, you'll find these rooms that have wider door frames. A lot of these rooms also have a laminate type of flooring as well. It certainly suggests a more medical atmosphere. Now here, guys, this is where the nurses' station once sat, okay? You can still see here on the med cabinet, there are still names and all of that stuff that are kind of here on the med cabinet. Obviously, any sensitive information we did remove from the building. Like number 1 for me, I certainly don't want to step on toes of family members. Mm-hmm. Number 2, I don't feel like playing the HIPAA game or anything like that either, right? So we decided it best to get rid of that stuff. Now, guys, specifically down this long, dark hallway down there. This is why I hate it back here so much. But all the way down the hall, on the right-hand side over here, is room number 2. Now, typically, guys, what happens is a very tall, black humanoid figure will come out of room 2. He will turn and then run at you. This is just what we've started to call the Shadow Man phenomenon, right? Now, what's interesting to me is the distance from all the way down there to here, which is probably roughly 30 feet, maybe more. But it's traveling that distance in less than a second. It is moving that fast. So this is also the phenomenon that's going to send the majority of people out the front door, right? Now, we've had overnight groups stay as little as 30 minutes, guys. Now, you have the place for 20 hours, okay? So it is interesting to me. Like, I'm very analytical when it comes to this stuff. And one thing that I have noticed is that when this phenomenon happens, nobody is getting hit or scratched or any of that stuff, right? None of that is happening. The second you flinch or react in any way, the phenomenon's pretty much done and over with and has passed. So to me, it's almost suggesting maybe something residual in nature, right? The day after Paranormal Lockdown aired on TLC, one of the nurses that used to work here got a hold of me, and she said, the gentleman who occupied room 2 was 6'7", nonverbal, mentally deranged, had killed a few people in the past. However, his little claim to fame, I guess, was whenever they were doing bed checks or whatever you want to call it, he would come out of his room and he would chase the nursing staff. So it's pretty interesting to me because we're obviously seeing similar behaviors here, right? The problem is that usually with a residual type of haunt, there's an antecedent, right? There's something that would kick it into motion, a time of day, a weather pattern, a moon phase, anything. None of this really seems to matter. It's just happening whenever it wants to. And we've documented and observed this as often as 4 times in a day. So it is rather significant when this happens. So anyway, have fun with that. So like I in all honesty, guys, like I don't even vacuum back here. I don't like it that much. Now, guys, down here at the opposite end of the hallway, excuse me. We can kind of cruise into this room real fast here, guys. So, guys, this is another room that's fairly significant. They did. Now, guys, this is what we call Rebecca's room. Now, Rebecca was an interesting patient. She was dropped off here, and she was only in her mid-30s. So she was quite young, but she was dropped off by her husband, which apparently was something you could just do back in the day. We do know that she thought my husband doesn't love me. He doesn't find me attractive, like all of this stuff, right? This became quite the obsession for her. So much so, in fact, that she would stand right here at this sink looking into the mirror, and she would pluck the hair out of her head one by one by one, which there's a medical term for that. I would probably butcher it if I tried. But we do know because of all of this obsessive type behavior, she was very heavily medicated. It didn't really seem to take. She didn't react well to the meds. She stopped eating. She stopped drinking. She quite literally wasted away in this very room. Now, I will also say that female investigators seem to have the most luck in this room for whatever reason, right? Tugging on your pant legs, playing with your hair, certainly nothing violent or anything like that. The door will manipulate itself open and closed, and sometimes even on command. It is quite interesting to watch all this happen. But it's certainly one of the more sad stories that we have here, for sure. Now, guys, we're going to cruise upstairs. I'm going to show you all that fun stuff. All right. Get another shot here of the long, scary, ominous hallway.
She doesn't want to see the man.
I don't want to see him either.
You don't want to see him either?
I've seen him enough.
That's exciting.
It's crazy. All right, guys. So now we are cruising upstairs here at the manor.
Just looking for Sarah.
You scared me to death. My goodness, that's great. All right, guys, so let's cruise on up.
You suck, I called you.
Cruise up these steps. It's an interesting curvy staircase here. All right, guys, so
What?
turn on the light. Just waiting for the rest of our guests to come up the stairs.
Yeah, watch, I'll be the one that gets touched and poked the most and goes screaming out the door.
So, guys, another one of the first things that we ended up doing after acquiring this building was we ended up hiring a private detective, right, to really lock down some of the history of this place. It's very important to me that I'm not presenting people with a load of crap, right? So he did a 3-week-long investigation. And then afterwards, I had him spend 1 extra week in this hallway behind me specifically for reasons that you can start to kind of see on the walls here. Smears and all of this stuff here. And it continues throughout this entire hallway. I'll show you.
Chicken.
I'm going to shut this door to show you guys just a little bit better. But guys, here, once you reach room 22, you'll kind of see it starts to kind of hit its apex in this area here, right? So it's been smeared into the door, all these weird stains and markings. Now, around the corner is probably the most disturbing for me, but it is very obvious that somebody has grabbed a hold of this corner here. These are blatantly obvious fingers that made these markings. And then, of course, there's another large stain over here as well. Now, this gentleman did 3 different tests on 3 separate sections of this hallway. So he gave it a pretty fair shake. Now, each time it did come back positive for human blood. So that is what you're observing. So probably don't touch it because it's nasty, okay? But he was also able to tell us that whoever this was the same person, okay? Very similar to the names on the cabinets downstairs. I certainly don't want to step on toes. So I said, that's probably enough information. We don't need to know anymore. The questions I still have, I'm never going to have a definitive answer to. How it got here is a big one. Why it was never cleaned up is a bigger one, right? Because usually blood wouldn't just hang out on the walls, okay? So cruising down this way, guys, a little bit further down this curvy hallway of ours, we're going to go into this room here. Jeez Louise. Already hearing like weird knockings and things like that coming from down the hallway where we're about to go. So we'll see how this goes, guys. This could be interesting. An interesting tour. I'm just going to let our overnight group pile in here real quick. But guys, this area here, specifically room, this is where a lot of people are encountering a gentleman spirit referring to himself as the captain the most. Now, usually it's just a disembodied voice asking things like, what's your business, right? Other times it's flat out telling people just to F off or something like that, okay? It's not very welcoming. Now, I will also say this, guys. People in this room have been scratched, punched, bit, kicked. It's so, again, but usually that's following a fair amount of provoking, okay? So I'm not saying they're asking for it, but I mean, maybe they're asking for it a little bit, right? Like me personally, guys, I've never had a problem with the captain. I'm also just kind of the guy that stocks the toilet paper, you know what I mean? So, so anyway. Now we're going to cruise down to the next room on the left. If you guys want to cruise in there and kind of pile in, that room is significantly smaller than this one. So it's going to be like sardines, but it'll be okay.
This
This is fun stuff. Ooh. It is dark and it is creepy. So I'm going to see if this light works, guys. I certainly don't want to startle anyone there. But it is a smaller room. We can get kind of a good shot like this. So guys, now this is what we call Susie's room. Now Susie was a middle-aged patient, but mentally, she was probably closer to about 8 or 9. Okay, so we found a lot of these coloring books and activity books over here. Obviously, people have started to add to her collection. We openly invite people to color in these books, leave her a note or a message, whatever you feel comfortable with doing. She loves interacting with people. She just loves the company, honestly. From the investigative side of everything, this room probably fascinates me more than any of them because the activity seems to be contained to this room, and we're not quite sure why that would be.
Are you okay in the closet?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I just say? I'm like, I am so sorry. Like, guys, just as a, I had no idea that she was. I had no idea that you were in in the closet. I'm over here just trying to get the shot.
Mom, you
I absolutely love that. Hilarious.
I was
One
going to wait and go
sec.
boo, but you know.
Let me see here. What's that?
That is so much fun. You've absolutely just made me howl. Literally, she popped
It's
out
great.
the wall.
I had no idea she was behind me. It was great. I was just like trying to get the angle. You know what I mean?
Oh, bless you. I'll let you carry on.
Oh, that's great. Oh my God, that was great. So guys, really though, are you okay? Okay, okay, seriously. I'm telling you, so the activity, like I said, seems to be contained to this room, right? And we're not quite sure why that would be because every other spirit in this place is fairly transient. They'll follow you and mess with you all day and night long. And she just stays put. Now, numerous times I've set up board games and things like that at the end of the hallway, trying to like coax her out, just kind of as a fun experiment. And we always get the same type of response, and it's always usually like, I can't leave, I'm scared, he won't let me leave. I don't know who he is that she's referencing. I would love to find out. So if you guys come up with any answers regarding that, I would love to hear about it. That would be great. Now we're going to cruise down here to the other end of the hallway. Right. I'm going to make sure that nobody else is in the closet this time. All right. Oh, this is neat. I'm also going to shut this door. Okay. So, guys, I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but there are a lot of toys and a fun little piano mat. And more toys back over here. All of that stuff. So, guys, this is just what we call Inez's room. Now, the story with Inez Gibson is kind of the biggest unsolved mystery that we have in this place, right? So the story goes that it was 1900. It was December 21st of 1900. So right around Christmas time. We know 12-year-old Inez Gibson was outside playing with her 8-year-old brother Otto. She was either cold or bored, but she says, I'm going upstairs. Well, we know 10 minutes pass, and Otto, her brother, comes upstairs, finds his sister Inez hanging by her jump rope in the closet. This looks like a suicide. It kind of smells like a suicide. These children had a rough go of life up until this point. Maybe further suggesting suicide. We just don't know for sure. What we do know is that her brother Otto tries to get her down, and he can't because he's only 8 years old. He's just not strong enough to do so. He runs to the grocery store. Now, that's where her aunt and uncle were working that day. Now, aunt and uncle had just become adopted mom and dad. Again, a very new living situation, a very tough go of life up until this point. He grabs them. He grabs 2 doctors as well, which just seems like dumb luck, in my opinion, for small town Iowa in the year 1900. They race back. They get her down. They tried to help. Way too much time had passed, and obviously there was just no helping her. This story shook the entire community, losing somebody so young and in such an odd set of circumstances. Even one of the doctors that was trying to assist her that day committed suicide 10 days later. The story gets messy, right? Now, guys, what I can tell you is that one of the most active spirits that we have here is a little girl claiming to be Inez Gibson. And you will very audibly hear her running up and down these halls. She will call you by name. She will ask you to come and play. Things of that nature, right? But I can also definitively tell you that Inez Gibson never died here. The story I just told you, in fact, did happen, sure, but it didn't happen here. It happened across the street. So why she would be here in her afterlife, we have no idea. Now, maybe potentially I would suggest she's certainly receiving a lot of attention with all the toys and the gifts, the money. Even over here in this drawer, people are bringing jump ropes, which may be in poor taste. Maybe you could use it as a trigger object as well. I don't know. So, I mean, obviously, I'll never tell anybody how to investigate, right? But guys, we don't know exactly why she would be here. But this is about all I can come up with at this point in time. So, but now let's cruise down to the other creepy hallway.
Anything else?
All right.
Sherry, do you want to go?
Cheers. Oh, that's nice. I like that. All right, guys. Real quick, sorry. That ball just moved.
What just moved?
That ball that's on the floor just moved.
Oh my God.
I just saw it as I was walking by this room and had to double back. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
That was very impressive.
We need to go back to that.
All right, guys. How we holding up so far? Good? All right. All right. I'm just going to leave this light on for now. All right, guys. Now we're going to the other hallway here. And we're going to cruise into the room right here. I'm going to turn on the light. All right. Four dressers and a filing cabinet. So
I think we
I
just
guess
lost
this is what we call Hank's room.
We can still hear everybody at the Malvern Manor, but we're just having a couple of technical issues with the camera stream at the moment. So as soon as Josh is able, he will come back to us.
Am I there? I feel like I'm here.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you, but you've just frozen.
Am I at least making a good face?
Great, Josh.
Or does it look like I'm like choking on something?
No, you just look like you're just ready to burst into laughter.
Okay, well, that's good.
Thank you.
Well, hopefully it comes back soon.
Hopefully. I've heard you have a lot of problems with the electronics over there.
We do indeed. 1 second here. I'm trying to mess with it. Did it work? Hey. All right. Nice.
I'll leave you to it.
Okay. Okay. So guys, this is Hank's room or Henry's room. And I always say it just kind of depends on the day and what he wants to be called. He's your very stereotypical grumpy old man, right? Now he would sit out on the front porch here and he would throw rocks at children and things like that. So he's not exactly the nicest guy in the world. Now we also have noticed that he has a very strong dislike for females. He does not enjoy the company of ladies at all, and he will call you pretty much any vulgar name that you could possibly imagine, and his vocabulary is epic, to say the very least. But again, guys, everything in this place is exactly the way I found it, including even, let me show you this. Some of the clothing items that are here in the drawer. Now the clothes kind of seem to be that catalyst for activity, right? So messing with these clothes, folding up these clothes nicely and placing them back in the drawer usually will get a response. Ladies, especially putting on the clothing, will usually also elicit a response from Hank. And like I said, usually it's nothing bad. He's just fairly mouthy. Okay. So he's kind of a lot of fun, really. Guys, I'll show you something else it's kind of weird. It's kind of nasty. It has nothing to do with anything, really. But in this top drawer of this dresser here, and I don't know if you guys can see it or how well you can see it. I'm going to get the camera in there a little more. But there are fingernail clippings in the drawer, which is super gnarly.
Ew.
Yeah. But again, it's just like one of those things that we have found that we haven't touched. Not that I'm going to touch that, right? But I guess it's kind of nasty. Now, guys, we're going to cruise down the hall. I will say, when we go down this hall, watch your step because it slants like a wheelchair ramp, like very similar pitch of a wheelchair ramp. So watch that. Okay, here we go. And guys, I will have you I will have you guys choose whichever room you would like to be in, either 17 over here or room 18 over here. We'll do a bit of a social experiment. How about that?
Which one you want to go to, Matt?
All right, guys. So, guys, one of the first things that I ended up doing after being here and getting this building for myself, right, was I invited some of the former nursing staff back here just to kind of walk me down memory lane. This is one of those areas that they stopped. They told me kind of a weird story that more or less rubbed me the wrong way. But regardless, this is what they said. They said that the gentleman that was over here in room 18 pretty much had this bed check schedule down to a science. They said that 3 to 4 times a week, usually in the middle of the night, he would sneak across the hall into room 17 over here, where he would then sexually assault the gentleman that was in this room. Now, personally, guys, I've seen over 150 pieces of documentation that would suggest this absolutely happened. But it always, again, rubbed me the wrong way because 150 is an awful lot. 4 is a lot, really. Most likely you would know what was going on and you would take one of these gentlemen out of the equation. However, that never happened because I can tell you they coexisted for at least 5 years across the hall from one another. So again, it's not making a lot of sense to me. One evening we were doing an investigation up here. And in room 17, we were asking very specific questions about the assault. And plain as day, over this geoport that we were using, this voice comes through and it says, that never happened. And it was very adamant about the fact that this never went on. So obviously I perked up a little bit and I said, well, what did happen? And he said, I loved him. Now, over the next 2 hours, the spirit suggested that these two gentlemen were in fact a couple, loved each other very much. I do know that any form of sexual anything has to be documented, no matter what it may be, which may then lend itself to why we would have so much documentation, but then also maybe lend itself to why they were never separated, because maybe it wasn't an actual issue to begin with, right? So I will say that these 2 rooms, I have got some of the best EVPs I've ever captured from these 2 rooms, for sure. So this could definitely be a hot spot for you guys later. Now, guys, we only have one more stop to make, and it's pretty much the only reason why you signed the waiver, okay? We're going to go up to the attic.
I didn't sign a waiver.
So, guys, I'm going to get a shot of this. These are the attic steps. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Very tight quarters.
Very tiny, guys.
So guys, it's going to take a little bit for the group to get up here because these stairs are very narrow and very steep. However, once they get up here,
Oh my gosh.
some very interesting stuff happens up here for sure. As you can see, guys, it's kind of small, but it's
Don't
also
look straight up. I'm lighting it up for you guys.
it's also like ripped up and torn up.
You gotta go sideways.
Here, Bo, can you take my bag?
Mom, left-hand rail is really, really loose.
And actually, here in a little bit, I might borrow your light on your phone. That would be great. Just to have you shine it, kind of so these guys can see where I'm about to show you.
Anybody else coming? Nope.
Everybody else is like, nope. So guys, this attic, we don't know what the purpose of this attic was, right? However, along the walls, there's trim, there's baseboards, there's moldings and paint. Even this old chimney that's right here has a paint job on it. Now, they knocked this chimney down because it was the cause of all of this fire damage that you see above my head, right? So now, guys, usually up here, what we are experiencing is a lot of growling, scratching, disembodied voices telling you things like F off, die, I'm Satan himself. It's not a very welcoming type of experience, right? Now, the majority of these noises are coming from just on either sides of the walls here. So initially, when I was investigating, I thought it's very feasible that it's like a family of raccoons or an animal of some sort, right? Now, the only place I can really investigate that further is back through over here. And this is where I'm going to borrow your light if you don't mind. But just over here, guys, on either side of the hallway, there's a crawl space here, and then there's a crawl space right over here. So now I've been back through here 8 different times, guys, specifically looking for carcass or droppings or anything to suggest that something is or was alive. Now, the only things that I have found back here are very personal items, okay? A tobacco pouch, playing cards, keys, crushed up packs of cigarettes, and things of that nature, but nothing suggesting an animal yet. So whoever this is does not enjoy the company of people at all, and he will tell you things like, F off and die, I'm going to kill you, and all this horrible stuff. However, he will also beg you for alcohol and cigarettes, which is why we have this cute little collection right over here, which is more of a peace offering. It's not just me on a rough day, you know what I mean? Like, this is more of like, let me do my job and I will let you do your job type of scenario. So guys, this is by far my second least favorite section of the house to be. The first obviously being that Shadow Man hallway, but this is definitely the second. We have captured some of the weirdest things up here for sure. At times, like I'll set a live camera up here and let it roll. It'll sound like the building is being ripped apart, like boards being thrown and everything like that. Nothing is ever out of place. It is bizarre. There have been numerous times where I've had to come to this building because I would have sworn to you that somebody had broken in. Again, nothing out of place, nobody in the building. It's locked up tight. So it's interesting. So this could definitely be a hot spot for you guys as well. So now, guys, I'm going to cruise downstairs and I'm going to finish up over here with these guys and then answer any questions that you guys may have also. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Be careful, have fun.
Yeah. Just be careful on the stairs, please.
Oh, yeah.
All right. You signed that waiver, right?
Well, I didn't.
All right, guys. So
That's a great tour, Josh, and that place just oozes like, it's really strange because as we're sat here watching that live feed that you've been doing, I've been receiving messages regarding things that people have been experiencing. Now, up in the attic, can you tell me if there was ever a female that was knocked over in there and dragged by her hair?
that I don't know for sure. It would not shock me.
Okay.
Up there,
Sorry.
it would not shock me.
Okay, I just want to ask you this as well. Now, I did ask, since obviously we've been chatting, I've been chatting to Johnny over the interviews and everything. I had a very, very significant episode that I tried to explain away, but I was around about 8 to 9 years old with braids down my hair, a light brown color. And I actually went into a room and there was an old style armoire there. So it was like a wardrobe, but it had 2 different colored inlays in it, and it only opened one way, so it opened from left to right.
Mm-hmm.
But she was looking out the window, and on the window ledge there was this little bud vase that you have, with the little spouts on them.
Yes,
they're very tiny, and you can only stick like one little flower in them, but there was one of them. Has anything like that been found there?
we've had plenty of that. Actually. Yes.
Okay.
Interesting. Very.
Oh goodness! I can now put it to rest. Now that's fine. So, because I asked Johnny about it, and Johnny couldn't. He said no, that I don't know anything about that. But that is one thing that I kind of picked up on after we spoke the other day, which was a bit strange. But also the feeling upstairs in the attic is horrific. I felt a bit sick. I felt disorientated, and I felt like somebody would have been locked in there for a reason, as to not hurt somebody else.
That's exactly what I think too. I think maybe potentially that's where they would put somebody who wasn't being compliant in some way. But yeah, very interesting. But also, like, the feeling that you're getting is extremely warranted too. Like, numerous people have been up there and gotten physically sick while being up there, which makes for a super fantastic day for me, you know. But still, it is interesting up there, because the second you come downstairs, you feel better. You feel instantly better. So,
but as you know, I've never visited that place in my lifetime, and the only time we've ever discussed anything is to set up this interview and to discuss what's been, you know, to get you on the festival of the unexplained for an interview and a tour. So that to me is just, you know, that's fantastic. So thank you for that. So what made you acquire the manor?
So I've completely stopped believing in coincidence, really. But I was filming A Brush with Evil, the very first A Brush with Evil film that we had done. And we were across the street at what's called the Classic Cafe. And they have their own slew of paranormal happenings there. And they were nice enough to say, come on over and investigate and film it and do what have you. There's a bar that's attached to the place, right? So with noise contamination, we really couldn't investigate at all. But it was kind of weird. This gentleman that was outside, he was like, hey man, what's with all the cameras? And I told him what we were up to. And then he told me about this building that he owned that had numerous weird things happening. However, he wasn't really a true believer in the paranormal. So he liked to dismiss everything away. But there were some things that said, you know, that happened that he couldn't. He was then nice enough to let us into this building, and literally letting us into a building that just a year later we would be calling Malvern Manor, which is insane to even think about. So
that's amazing. It's just
complete happenstance, really. Yes.
So yeah. So how long have you actually owned the property for?
I believe 6 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a long time. And how many paranormal investigations do you think you've seen over those 6 years?
Thousands. So many.
Do you have a book to document all of the activity that you have?
We do have a log book. Actually, now we have numerous log books that people will write down their experiences. I love going through that, especially to see if we can correlate anything that may be happening. Again, maybe even suggesting residual type phenomenon. But yeah, I love to correlate data and all that stuff. I'm kind of a big geek.
Can you tell me if anybody was stabbed in their stomach on the left-hand side as well at that place?
There was. This wasn't that long ago. No, there. This wasn't that long ago. Somebody was here. Gosh, it was. I don't even believe this was 2 weeks ago. But there was a gentleman that said he had a very sharp pain in his stomach, like he was being.
Yeah, as we're talking, I literally had like somebody just stabbed me in the stomach on my left-hand side, and it was quite a sharp pain. But then obviously it was disintegrated once obviously I spoke to you about it.
Well, that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes,
I wasn't supposed to be doing any sort of stuff like this tonight, but obviously they want to come across the pond, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, dearie me. So yeah, it is a super place though, isn't it? I mean, you've had so many experiences there, and you've had friends hang out there. And you mentioned Richard Estep as well. He's written a book about the Malvern Manor, hasn't he? And he's back there is it tomorrow, did you say?
Tomorrow. He'll be back tomorrow. I'm so excited.
I know, I'd be excited as well. He's such a lovely man. And you know, if you want to read up about the book, you can actually find that on Amazon as well. So what are the plans for the team that are there this evening? Are they paranormal investigators, or are they just coming to see what's about?
They are investigators. They're here. They have the place all night long. So like when you book with us, you check in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you have the place until noon the following day. So we try to give people ample time to to cover all the space, right? But yeah, I think they're pretty jazzed. I think they're ready to go.
I know, and they've been guest stars on the Festival of the Unexplained as well now.
I know. It's great though. Like they showed up just in time, and I thought I would just do both, at the same time. So
it's always the way, isn't it? And life is always better, I always think. And if it's off the cuff, then I think it's even more. We're lucky to see that, especially when you're giving the tour to everybody. And the lady who came out of the wardrobe, that was priceless.
I had no idea she was there. I was like, what is going on?
I just remember seeing her and I was like, and then you just went, oh.
Like, holy, I was like, what is going on?
It's nice to see though that you have such a great sense of humor for things like that. I half expected you to do the little man yelp and swear a little bit.
I thought about it. Oh my gosh, it's great. I like to have a lot of fun though. I like to have fun.
Yeah, it's one of those, when you sort of like you don't know what to do. I remember
yeah.
You sit there and it's like
what now? Yeah.
Oh dear. So what is the most prolific activity that you've had at the manor that you've had documented?
For me personally, it's been every encounter with that shadow figure, that shadow man phenomenon, right? Like that is what I really am trying to figure out as to what is going on with that. It freaks me out pretty good. Like one evening I stood back there for 4 hours trying to get this to happen because I wanted to see what happens to us physically if we aren't reacting, right? If we don't flinch, if we don't scream and run. So I stood back there. It finally happened. And like, ultimately I didn't run, but I still flinched, which kind of upsets me because now I realize I have to do the experiment over. Right. Which really sucks, but we'll get there. Eventually we'll figure it out. So, yeah,
it's to do an experiment like that as well. It's not all about, it's not all about you, is it? It's waiting. The constant waiting, and if you're recording it as well, just to get those little snippets of what we call paranormal gold is just a split second, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And it gets frustrating at times, doesn't it? But it is what it is. It's kind of the name of the game, right?
It is. Yeah, it definitely is. Well, I'm going to cut this short because you've got guests there, and I really appreciate that you've taken the time to take us round. But I would love to get you on the Keep On Chatting podcast with us, and go through everything from the history all the way through some details about paranormal history that's gone on. And hopefully I might not have no more further dreams or visitations with these people and having these stabbing feelings that I'm having, but you never know what I might do. But it was like we talked about though the last time, isn't it? I said that I'm destined to go to the Hinsdale house. I'm destined to go to the Malvern Manor. I am destined to go to the Axe Murder house as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully 2020 may just be the correct year for that.
Absolutely. But thank you so much for having me on. Like, this was a lot of fun.
Thank you. It was fun. And, just make sure she's not hiding in the wardrobe when you go back up.
No kidding, right? I'm about to leave.
Bless you. Thank you so much, Josh. And I'll be speaking to you shortly, okay?
That sounds great. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
So there you have it, the Malvern Manor tour, and with the added comedy value in there as well. So as you can see, Josh is a great guy, and he's doing his best to keep the upkeep of the manor so that teams can carry on using it. So if you're in the US and you haven't investigated it, give him a shout, because he will let you have it, as he mentioned, from 4 p.m. in the afternoon until the next day. So. Well, I think, it's 10 to 10. It's cowboy time. So I'm going to sign off. And I think Karen's up next with another US favorites, the Ghost Finders. So stay tuned, and we'll be back shortly.